series, if you will, here. The first talk was a couple weeks ago. We did some stuff with React and TDD. And this time we're going to apply some of the same principles to Angular and use their tools instead. So I hope you enjoy this one. Maybe better than the last one, or at least as much. So I'm going to bore you with a couple slides first, and some of these may look familiar, but I'm going to do it anyway. So over here on this desktop. Okay, can everybody see those slides there?
Okay.
Okay. And so this technique for testing is really kind of loosely based on this metaphor around, building modular housing. So has anybody seen this show on Hulu called Impossible Builds?
No.
No? I recommend you go take a look at it. So basically, it's about these people in the British Isles who want to build amazing homes in just out of the way, crazy places, that are almost inaccessible. And so the way they did this, instead of, hauling in all the materials and doing stick-built homes, what they've done is, use this modular home concept where they had the home components built offsite. They brought them to the location, assembled on site, and did all the fit and finish afterward. And so I'm going to use that kind of as a metaphor to talk about how we're going to do this testing in Angular. So let's see here. All right, so the factory portion of the metaphor. So effectively, those who are familiar with Angular know that we develop in components, and we stitch components together like parent-child relationships and pull them together into an app to create our experience. So in our case, we're going to frame our small components in factories and using test-driven development, and we'll mock any of the inputs and spy on the outputs to make sure that we're our individual components are working as we expect them to. So just like in a modular home, they're building small components and they're temporarily giving water or electricity to those components to test out those things in the factory. All right. Next, the on-site assembly metaphor really is taking those components and then starting to stitch them together, right? So in the context of a larger child component, so effectively like in modular housing, you're taking these pieces, setting them together on a foundation, you're making some of the connections to plumbing and HVAC and electricity on site, right? And we're going to do that same sort of thing by integrating our Angular components, as children to parent components. And then lastly, the final assembly metaphor is, in the housing industry, it's where we're doing our fit and finish, our siding, our painting, landscaping. So in that case, the final assembly metaphor here is really around, the CSS and the repositioning and such to make sure our user interface is gratifying. Now, the key thing about this type of testing is that those CSS changes, look and feel changes, should not break our tests. And then secondarily, we're a little bit more malleable than a home. So we can actually move components around on screen into different places. And that also should not break our tests. Right? So that makes our tests a lot less brittle. And, when we're talking about UI facing tests, they tend to be quite brittle and, not very resilient to change. These should be fairly resilient for us. And lastly, I just want to put a plug in for the library that I'm using for this testing. I'm not using Angular's typical testbed library, which tends to get you down into the component class level. So here we're really going to focus our testing on the user's experience with our site in a browser. So we're going to be working within the DOM to find things and to test the side effects of the things that our components do. Now, testing library provides a series of DOM-focused libraries for React and Angular and other languages or platforms, I should say. And they all are written in this manner with the user's point of view. They use a lot of accessibility capabilities in order to do so. All right. And I think that's enough. Everybody bored with the slides? Should we get into some real coding? I think so. So let me see if I can get us into an IDE. All right, let's see. Quick little bit of setup here. And so I'll put this into the chat or into Slack later on, right? The URL to this repository, you're welcome to grab a fork of it and experiment with this on your own. Should be all set up from the beginning. What I've done in advance in order to, not bore you with me generating a bunch of boilerplate code, writing a bunch of boilerplate code, is I've used the ng CLI to generate 3 components ahead of time. And the tests, I've refactored the tests to use the testing library instead of the generated tests that come with it, all except for the app test. And we can get started from there. And I took a hint from our last session. Instead of creating, commented out, or not commented out, but ignored versions of tests, I've actually just used comments, and we're going to write our little our tests, as we go along here with our comments. All right, I'm boring myself, so let's get started. All right, so let me see if I have a quick. I thought I had a wireframe, but it must be in the other project. So let me just briefly explain what we're going to do. We're going to write a small to-do app, very simple. It's going to have a text entry field for entering a string that will represent our to-do item. It's going to have a button for us to submit that string and add it to a list. And then underneath that, it should display a list of the to-do items we've added so far. So all the storage for this is just in memory for now. So we're not wiring up to local storage or anything like this. It's really meant to kind of showcase the testing method. I wouldn't rely on this for my to-do list because it tends to disappear every time you run it. Okay, so the first test we want to do, we're going to start off with a little form that does the entry, right? And the first thing I want to do is render a text box within that form. So I'm going to take this little comment here.
Shouldn't we run the test you already have to see what it does first?
Yes, I have actually done that, but okay. I will run it for you guys to be for sure. And I think all I have to do is here. I'll tell you what, I'll just make a little change. That should rerun my tests. Boom. Here we go. All the tests are running. Okay. And those tests that are out there so far are just testing the basic ability to render a component. They're not doing anything beyond that. So now we're going to actually put some beef to our component here.
That's right. I missed
so it.
Was working straight. Was it red before you turned it green?
No, it was green. I had run them just before, just to make sure everything was good. And we need a little function. Those who were with me last time know that I type at a very slow rate, so I appreciate your patience. So in this case, we're going to write an assert here, expect. And we're going to use our screen object. So in testing library, anytime you render something, which we're doing up here in the before each, there's a screen object that is created behind the scenes that allows you to do DOM queries against what has been rendered. So we're going to use screen, and we're going to create a query here. We're going to get by role ID, by role that is, and we're looking for a text box. I think I need to put that in quotes, sorry. Looking for a text box, and let's say it's going to have some characteristics around it. So it's going to have a label that basically says this is for doing a to-do list. Okay, there's something about that. So let's make it real simple. We'll do a loose match. And we'll say new to do, and we're going to make this case insensitive. So we're just looking for those two words somewhere in the label of this. We'll try to keep it real simple. Makes it a little less brittle too. All right. And we expect that to be defined. Let's see. Oops, forgot something here. This is actually a small JSON object here. And this new to do should have the name. And we've got a little bit of an issue here. So this is the first of many problems I'll probably have here.
What is the red behind you showing? Is that helpful? I know it's hard to see everything on the screen.
This thing here.
Is it failing behind your current screen?
Oh, back here. Yeah.
Okay, what do we find?
Unable to find accessible element with text box. Okay. Well, it's failing for the reason I expected. I'm just surprised to see the squiggly here, to be honest. Expected 0 to 1 arguments, but got to get. Oh, I see what the problem is.
Yep,
there we are.
Oh,
An extra parenthesis stuck in there. Okay. And I think I need one more paren here, and that'll fix it.
okay.
Yeah, there we go. All right, there really was something wrong. Good. I see I've been suffering from that lately, extra parentheses in some places. So something I need to keep an eye out for. Okay, we'll double check here, make sure it's failing for the same reason. Unable to find accessible relevant element. Okay, so we're going to come up here and we're going to add it. We're going to do the simplest thing that passes. So we're just going to add input, type equals test, text. Okay, we're not going to bind it to anything yet. And that should still fail because it's not finding this name thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's really cool about this when you're using get by role is that the library will actually poke through your DOM and find all of the different available roles. So down here it shows, yes, we have a text box here, but it doesn't have a name yet. And so I can supply a name by wrapping it with a label. So let's go do that. All right, so we're going to put a label. And we're going to say it's for, we should call this thing, let's say new item. Okay, and what this does is it kind of matches our label with a particular item by ID. So I'm going to add an ID to input also to make sure these two things are connected together. And the text I wanted should contain at least new to do. So let's say it's like add new to do. Okay, and then we'll close it. Okay, like I said, I'm going to have to add an ID down here to cross-reference to that label. And we called it new item. And hopefully that does the trick for us over here in Carmel. And yes, we now have, should render a text box passing. Okay. That went pretty well. Okay, so next test. Should render a button.
Yay. Was that expected?
What's that? Green?
Was that green expected then?
That time it was expected, yeah.
Yay.
So it's not case sensitive.
It's not accidental?
I say it's not case sensitive, your name.
I think it's because of the I, right?
This little I over
take
here
the I off
makes
and
it
see if it fails.
insensitive.
Oh, okay.
It's a JavaScript
so it should fail.
for regular expressions, yeah.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So that should fail now, right?
Doesn't
It should
seem,
have failed.
yeah.
This should fail it.
Is it refreshing in the back?
Doesn't look like
Doesn't
it.
look like it's picking it up right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart my test to make sure we're still good. It's down here.
Oh,
That's why. Okay, sorry.
oh, so it wasn't rerunning because you had.
I was in the middle of writing a test. That's why it wasn't working. Okay. All right. Let's try that experiment again. Everything's green over here. And now when I take this off, now it should go. Yep.
Yep.
Nice.
There we go. Okay. All right. Okay, back to business here. Going to write our button test. We need a anonymous function.
So the screen get by role is basically like getting by HTML element is the other way to state it, right?
Yeah, and in fact, it's doing it by accessibility role. So an input of type text has an accessibility role out of the box called text box. And button has an accessibility role aptly named button. So we're gonna do that here. We're gonna do something very similar. I'm gonna steal that here. I'm gonna change this to button. And maybe we'll just have the word add here. That's cool. And we're failing because the role button and the name add does not exist in the document. And down here, here's the part that we're interested in. It shows our input, but nothing else. Okay. So let's make that test pass. We have a button here. And I don't think I need much else but add on here. And that may make it pass. Looks like it did.
Nice.
And yep, should render a button. Okay.
Render component, render text box, render button.
Okay, now we're going to do something here. What we want to do is disable this button when there's no text to be submitted. All right. So let's pull this guy aside. I think there's a snippet, anonymous function. There it is. Anonymous function. I don't have an argument here. Let's do this. I don't have this. Gives me a little bit too much there, honestly, but we'll go with it. It's better than watching me type arrow functions. Okay. In this case, what I want to do is just find my button. So I'll do a const here. Button. Let's call it submit button just to make sure there's no naming issues. Equals. I'm going to do this same query here. Get my name. Looks like my parens match up, so that's good. Okay. And what's kind of cool here, you'll notice I don't have an assertion yet. Missing the space. Jasmine will actually tell me. Spec has no expectations for anything that I forget to put the assertion in, or maybe a test that I'm writing my way through. It'll yell at me in caps that I haven't asserted anything yet. So in this one, I expect submit button dot disabled. I know what's going on here. I can't get to the disabled attribute yet. The reason for that is the type of a screen.getByRole is an HTML element. So I need to cast this as a HTML button element in order to get at the button specific attributes. So I'm just going to type it here, HTML button element.
Oh.
And now by magic, we should come down here and see disabled as a property. And if it is disabled, this should be true. Dot.
Could you do a better get by that would not require casting?
I'm not sure. I think that's the only way I can get to the actual disabled attribute is by casting it as a button element. Because what if I leave it as HTML element, then I'm only going to get a subset of all the available attributes, and those are the ones that are common across all HTML elements. So I need to cast in some instances if I want to do something very specific to that type of element. To be truthy,
I just learned about the center by going over the edges. That's me.
Okay. All right. So this is failing. Should disable button when test box is empty. Expected false to be true. Okay. The simplest thing I can probably do here is disabled. Let's just set that to true. Right. And everything blows up on me. What happened there?
Would you have to not have the brackets on disabled?
Yeah, try with not having those brackets.
Okay. Oh, you know what it is? Here it is. There's an extra bracket here somehow.
I think there's an extra bracket there.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it should work.
So I'm telling you, I've
without-
noticed this lately. I'm sorry?
Good
work.
eyes, everybody.
Without the brackets and disabled before
Oh,
and after.
try it without the brackets.
Yeah, I think it
let's,
should
let's see
work.
what happens.
So
That works there too. Okay.
So works both ways, with and without the
Yeah.
brackets.
Yeah. I think maybe the brackets are needed for custom attributes. Does that sound about right, Yinsia?
I don't know because
Well,
I have always used without and it works.
Yeah.
Don't the brackets act like an input, no, in Angular? So, yeah.
Have to search about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Let-
or attribute directive or something like that.
Yeah, let's go with it until it screams at us, which tends to scream at me a lot. Okay, so we're at this part right here. We've got that passing, just making sure disable. Okay, now we're getting into the meat of this. Now we need to enable this thing when there is text there. Okay. And it,
Got an extra quote.
this is where it'll get a little trickier.
Got a leading
Sounds
quote on
function.
34.
Do I?
Something. What's that tick at the beginning of 34?
Oh, this is escaping this kind of HTML template block right here, these ticks. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Line 33
33.
on the left. I'm sorry. Never mind. It's a piece of dust on my screen.
Okay, all right.
Sorry. It was the right color. Is it?
I can't help you with that one.
The color matched.
I'm thinking a comment about clean coding is appropriate here, Michael, but I.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Let me get my white out.
Okay, so I'm going to pull this down. And in this case, we want it to be false. Okay, and that should fail our test. It does. Make sure it's the right test for the right reason. Yep. True to be false. Okay, now here's where we get into some stuff here. So disabled, what I'm going to have to do is test the condition of something.
Right.
I can't tell if that's text highlighted there or the whole thing is highlighting for some reason. Okay, so what I want, I think, is I'm going to have a variable on my class called new to do item. And if that is an empty string, then I want that to trigger this. Okay. So now I need to actually add that variable. Just going to move these down because these are actually
HTML instead of setting it or unsetting that in the test.
in the test.
Yeah.
It's because the user can't see it. Does that make sense? Oh, I see what you're getting at. I actually need to. That's a good call.
You're complicating your UI instead of adding the complexity to the test.
Yeah. Hold on a sec. I missed a part of my test here. I'm going to back up. Oops. Let's get back to a green state again.
It and flip this one to be okay, and the other one fails.
I'm missing part of my test though here. So what I need is I need to actually type some text into it.
Yeah, you need to do something with
before I test this. Yeah. So const text box. Oops. Equals. And I need a screen to not get my button. There it is. I need this query.
Yeah.
Good call there.
So who's got a to-do they want as text? Polish the dog, water the lawn, what?
Change the cat box.
Change the cat. I like that.
Water the dog.
I don't know why I remember this, but a buddy always used to have polish the dog as a to-do item.
Polish the dog.
Polish the dog. Not the silver, not the car.
Shit that doesn't need to get done.
Okay. So let me talk about what I'm doing here. All right, so what I'm going to do, right, I've got a reference to text box, and what I want to do is fire an input event onto that text box and actually push some text in there. So this is the same thing as a user getting in and typing
Let's go with
value into the text
suggestion. Change the
so in this case, it's got to be of the form of an event target, and then we need value. And okay, so what is the to-do list?
Oh, change the litter box.
The box itself or the litter in the box?
The litter. Change the cat litter.
You got to be precise for Scott.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I might throw the litter on the floor and put the box out in the trash if you're not careful with somebody like me, right? Okay. All right, our test still fails. But now I think we know, hopefully we know that the fire event is now sending that to the text box. I have half a mind to cast that, but I'm going to hold off for right now and see if that.
like two things.
Yeah. All right. So let's do this here. Okay, again, I'm going to do this a little bit backwards from what I did.
Why is it failing?
Well, is there no text box in the component?
True to be false. So it's got a text box, but it's expecting disabled to be false and it's returning true. So that's why, oops, there's my test down there. Yeah, like I said, I think I'm going to need some state here.
And how does it
do
know
item?
which text box? You only have one at the moment, but how would it know which one it's looking at?
38, right?
Yeah, it's looking for a text box with a label with these
Gotcha.
keywords. in it.
Okay, so you've got the label in there. So, okay, we're good.
Yeah. There's other ways to
It would be a
find
list
these.
of all text
No,
boxes.
that sounds fine.
Yeah. You can use things like CSS IDs and classes and things to find things, but then that makes your stuff a little bit more brittle. You
Okay,
can also find by placeholder. So I can actually add some placeholder text and do a similar pattern match as well. That might look better stylistically, but it doesn't necessarily use this accessibility role to do so. So if you imagine a user is looking for a text box that has some indication that I can, this is where I add my to-do item. And that's how we're forming the test.
gotcha.
So what I've done is I've added an attribute here on the component new to-do item. And we're going to use that as a way to change this, right? New to-do item triple equals. Okay. Just double checking back there. That's still doing the same thing. And okay, so now in order for that text to be to replace this empty string in here, I need to bind it in this input. And so we're going to use ng model for that. Where's my secret things here? I think it's supposed to do this.
Football or banana in a box, one or the other.
Do I have it backwards?
No, that's correct.
That's correct. Okay.
Yeah, because if you say football or banana in the box, your curvy parts are in the side inside the box.
I'm used to it doing a little bit more code completion for me here. So new, oops, view item, there it is. Okay, still failing because I think we might need one other thing here. One thing that's helpful for me sometimes is to do this. Because often there's some underlying Angular stuff going on the console.
Nice.
I'll find out about it through this instead of, no, console's clear. That's interesting. So ng model, new to do item. I wonder if I need a form wrapped around this. I bet I do.
Oh, you mean like to submit? In essence?
Yeah. So it's not actually binding that. Yeah. Okay. So I think what we're going to do is
Before you go that route, I was just wondering, in Jasmine, we've also used like fixture dot detect changes.
that's with the test bed. Yeah, that's the test bed stuff.
Okay.
This should, you know, here actually it might be worth checking if I should cast this thing.
Oh yeah.
It could be that it hasn't actually fired a bit. Okay, and that had no effect. Okay.
Okay.
Text box target value. Okay. Just double checking to make sure things are kosher over here. Looks good. Had several of these thoughtful pauses last time too, where we had to troubleshoot something here. I think I'm gonna go down the path of trying to wrap this with a form. Okay. Put a form there. I'm gonna put a form here. Okay. And
slash form.
Slash. Yeah, close it now.
oh, you're right. I'm just going to push that in. Thank you for that. Slash form. Let's see here. I need to give it a name up here too. An angular name. We'll call it entry form. Okay. And I think I need to actually create a model for this thing. What's this telling us? If ng model is used within a form tag, the name attribute must be set. Okay, so I need a name. Yeah, it's going to make me add a couple extra things here. Let's just put this name equals. I'll use the same name, new item. Okay. And I think I also have to change the way I store my attribute. So instead of it being a standalone string, we're going to make it model.
Yeah, this is going back 50 years now, but isn't there a preference for name or ID, but not both?
Well, ID is supposed to be unique in the DOM, right? I guess name should be.
I'm just remembering.
I think so.
You can do both, but the style was to do both the same, and then a newer style was to not be redundant and repetitive and say the same thing over and over again.
We have to use name within a form if you're submitting, right? But I have a question for you. You said going back 50 years.
Yeah, this was HTML minus 42. The ancient Romans had the, we had the Y2K problem, but they had the BC problem. It was 20 BC, and it was 15 BC, and it was 10 BC. They didn't know what to do. They were having a real problem. But
such revisionistic history going on.
nice.
Adopt the syntax for ng model inside that input. That's correct. Because we have bracket and then we have parentheses.
Oh, so is ng model just one of those, not all? So we should look that up.
It's interesting. Definitely open to suggestions if anybody has any. But at the moment, I can't quite figure out why.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you could restate the problem, because you started down one track and then opened about 3 things. What's on our stack and what's the ultimate goal?
So the ultimate goal is for this disable button to react to the change state of this model.new to do item. So this attribute right here in the model is what we're trying to affect, right? So by doing that, what we're doing in the test is we're in the text box, we're typing this value, change cat litter in there. And when that does that, that should fire a change that stores that value down here in the new to do item. And that should then cause this to re-render based on reading this new to-do item again.
So could I jump
It's
in?
kind of a
You
wonky
said
one. Sure.
you had a long chain of inferences. The final one is
Yeah.
the only one tested. Could we test some earlier thing, like the text really is change the cat litter box?
That's a
Is a
good thing.
subgoal
So what I
for-
could do, how about
Good.
I do that? Expect. And let's say
Expect the
it's
test to be
covering up
polish the dog and make it fail.
text box dot value
Yeah.
to be I'm getting too much help from the Angular
But
right now.
polish the dog, make it fail first. To see how, I'm just a suggestion.
So it appears that it did pass, but your point is if you change it on 42, you want to see that fail because it looks like it must
Yeah,
have passed.
comment out 43 and make sure we can toggle 42 red and green.
There you
Okay,
go.
so 42 is green. You're saying change this to like dog to make sure I can
Anything.
fail it.
Sure.
Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Okay, so it's doing what we expect.
So yeah,
It's firing
it's
the-
putting the
Firing off the
information.
change value.
Yeah. The thing is, these fire events actually performs detect changes after they're fired. And so you don't actually explicitly call detect changes using this framework.
Thanks for
that's-
pointing that
But
out.
now we're sure line
Yeah.
40 is doing what we expected to do, and we weren't sure before.
Good.
Mhm.
And the reason it's failing right now is it should be changed the cat litter.
Yeah, so
Change the cat. Just get rid of litter. Don't change the litter. Change the cat.
Our cat's spayed, so it can't have a
so
litter.
that disabled to be false. Those are all right. See, so here, let me try this again just to see if that has an impact for us. Okay. All right. So we did need the brackets there, which is okay. All right. So that was our problem. Okay, good. All right. Phew.
Explain that.
Okay,
So the-
so at one point when we first put this up here, we had the brackets here around this attribute, right? And I think that is meant to make sure that that attribute is re-rendered when we have changes in the DOM. And I think that's what happened when we took that bracket off. Our test.
And in CA, you were
It's not
doing
gonna
some
fail.
research there. Is that something that you found?
Mostly in JS, we just use disabled as a property. I don't know, is this specific to Angular? But
I think so.
mostly
I
on
think it
the,
is, yeah.
mostly on DOM elements, we just use this disabled. And then this disable has, like, if we pass, for suppose if you're using React, we pass a prop true false. So we even don't have to mention that disable equals true. The prop directly gets into this disable, but that's a different syntax, I guess.
Here I think is what the problem is. So if I take the brackets off, notice that the color of model.toItem equals has changed to orange. So it's not actually rendering or evaluating it. It's just using that value, that string value in here. Now when I do this, it actually evaluates the expression, right? You can see it's changed now to colored blue. That's what our issue was.
Scott, if you could just do a quick test, can you take the brackets off for a second and then put double braces within the parentheses. I'm just curious if that would be an alternative way.
Within the quotes,
Yeah, within the quotes, I'm sorry. So double braces, open, two curly
like
open,
this.
and then two curly closes. Right there. Is that going to work? Oh, okay, it didn't work. I was just wondering if that was an equivalent way, but again, I think it's because it's an angular input when you put the brackets. So.
This is good. This is a good way to learn these things, right?
Yes, yes.
So,
So I
okay.
wasn't exactly following what Ancia was saying, but did that jive with your understanding now? Is that consistent with your understanding now?
You're asking Insignia?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
okay.
We're
So
going
your
to have
point-
to ask Google.
Yeah. So your point, Scott, was without the brackets, it was literally that string, and that's
Exactly.
where,
Yeah.
it wasn't evaluated. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So
Cool.
we're good there. Now, if I remember right, this is where this test is going to get a little funky. So what we're going to do on this test, we're going to try to make sure that I can emit an event and an output. So imagine that I'm a child of a parent, right? And basically I need to tell the parent that somebody's adding a new event. So this is what we're going to do now. And what we're going to do is in React, it was pretty easy to use the SPY for this, but using this test library with Angular, that's not as easy to do. And so I'm going to refer back to a test that I did earlier for that. So let's see if I can remember it all. If not, I will cheat and look in my repository. Should emit an event when the button's pressed. Okay. And we want an empty. Right. Pop that in there. Okay. So this one's going to set up very similarly. So I'm going to actually take this stuff. We're going to fire the event again. We're going to fire one more event though after that. So we're going to fire event dot click on the button. Okay. Submit button, it's called. Okay. Okay. I don't think I need any other arguments to that. Okay. And now, this is where it gets a little wonky on this test. I've got to do something different to intercept this. Okay, so what happens is there's a thing called an event emitter in Angular, right? That's used to emit the event back to a parent. The parent subscribes on the event emitter, right? And what I'm going to try to do is create a mock event emitter that will handle that subscribe method, and I'm going to inspect. I'm going to grab the value that it sends to subscribe. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to make sure that value is changed cat litter. Does that sound good? So I've got a little bit more to write in my test. So first, I'm going to go back up here to where I render. And I've got to add my callback to it. So in order to use the callback, I've got to create a global variable for my callback. All right. I'm just going to call back for now because I'm not very imaginative. And this is going to be new event emitter. Oops. And I gotta make sure I get the right one, angular core. And it's gonna return a string for me. Okay. And what I'm gonna do is, because JavaScript lets you do this, I'm gonna rewrite that subscribe method on this thing to do something different, okay? Now I gotta pass this call back in here. And what is it? It's the name of component properties, I think. Yeah, there it is. Okay, and what should we call this thing? So when I to-do list entry component on new to-do. Oop. And I'm going to pass it this callback. At least I think I'm gonna. We need a comma here. I think I need it, but what are you barking at here? Overload one component.
Can I get a comma? Can I get a name?
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
What's the error? Say again.
The error is giving us some wackiness here. Type on new to do is not assignable to a type. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, this error is obvious. It's between the keyboard and the chair, because of course this is going to fail because I don't have a prop or an output on here yet. Okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to allow that failure to just live there for a sec, right? Okay. And somewhere up here before I get to my events, I need to override that subscribe method here. So here, first I'm going to create a little variable. And I'm just going to set this to empty string. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is say callback, subscribe, and I want to give it something. Let's see, I don't know if I have to redefine it or just put a function in there. Yeah, I have to give it a function. So I'm going to give it an anonymous function. Let's just get this part done. Okay, and there should be a value here. Should be a new item. And what I want to do with that is say emitted value, new item. See what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
I'm basically just trying to capture that environment, kind of like a spy, right? Capture that argument to this. And then down here, the last thing I'm going to do is my expect. And I expect emitted value
The spy to be
take out the litter, change cat litter. All right. Grab that string. Okay, does everybody see what happened there? What I'm attempting to do here? Okay. No, a test doesn't compile, a still failing test, right?
Because you don't have the out. Yeah.
Yep. So now, okay, to solve that problem, I think I'm ready to write my code, right? At output. And what did we call it up there? On new to do. Equals new event emitter angular core string. Okay. Did this not? Oh, I'm sorry. This has to be parentheses at the end there. Okay. Output, did that fix? Yeah, that fixed this compile problem up here. Is this still giving us a problem? Just double checking accepts too few arguments. You need to call it first. I think that's an old error message, but it shouldn't do anything until I actually wire it up here to my submit. I think it's ng submit. Is that right? Should be. Oh, wait a sec. I need parentheses around ng submit, don't I? There it is. Okay. ng submit equals. Oh, and I can't call it directly, so I've got to create a new function. This is kind of weird because you have to daisy chain these functions in order to actually emit the event. Handle submit. Okay. Handle submit doesn't exist, so we're going to now put that down here. Is a function. I don't need an argument here because I'm going to grab it straight out of the model. Okay. Now I need to call my event emitter this dot on new to do dot emit, and I'm going to pass it this dot model dot new to do item, and I think I might have it wired now. It's bonked on me somewhere in there. Probably got a little too confused. Can't blame it. Let's go ahead and just restart the tester. Let's run it. Invalid character failed to execute. It's one of those extra parentheses somewhere in here. So join me on the hunt for that. There it is. I don't know why this happens in Angular, but with like React, when I'm coding in it, I don't get this extra parentheses, extra bracket thing happening to me all the time. Here it happens, and oh, yay!
Nice.
It looks like we're all green again. All right, cool.
It could be the
All right.
IDE VS Code trying to be too helpful or something.
Yeah, just a tiny bit too helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How are we doing, everybody? Do you need any
Fantastic.
explanation of what happened so far?
One thing that might be useful, just to kind of go over, is to explain the order of the test that you wrote was really important.
The order of the tests?
Yes, the order in which you
Yep.
created your tests. And I think you might
Yeah.
want to talk about that a moment.
Okay. Yeah. So I started off really simple up here, right? This one was pretty well generated. I rewrote this test beforehand, but the first thing I did was just check for the existence of the component to begin with. And then what I wanted to do was inspect inside the component, the first couple of each of the different pieces to see if they were there, right? So this is kind of like the equivalent of the first one. I'm just checking for the general framing, right? The second one is maybe I'm putting up some walls within there, right? And then the next couple of tests around this table is I'm starting to add some behavior to it, and I'm testing a couple of behaviors. So the first few tests are purely structural, and the next few tests are behavioral, right? So we went first with a simple behavior of this text box, the submit button disabled, enabled capability. And then we went for a bigger test in which we started to wire the text box and the submit button together and then produce something for our parents. So yeah, the test got generally more behavioral as we went down and more complex. And then eventually we started looking at what's my outer interface of this component? What does any parent expect of me? And in this case, all it expects is that one output, no inputs. How'd I do? Is that good, Camille? All right.
And question,
What is
quick question. These are not considered unit tests, but more integration tests because it's testing the actual DOM. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're kind of a tweener here, if you will,
Yeah,
right?
aren't they kind of a bit of both?
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah. We're really testing at a smaller unit, but they are somewhat integration, and they're black box, right? So it's kind of like Detroit style, if you will, right? So we're not as concerned with the implementation underneath. We're trying to test just from the visible interface. In this case, what a user would see as a visible interface.
Nice. Thank you.
And honestly, using testbed, right, and having like direct access to the component class is something that's more like the Mockist approach or the London approach, if you will, because then you're actually working with the underlying implementation rather than the user's perspective. I think there was a question coming.
Yeah, so thanks for mentioning cities, but, and I always forget this, but is this tying back to your impossible build model?
Yeah, yep. So I'm just gonna pop this up here, I think, real
I know
quick,
those
just to
slides
review
bored you,
that.
but if you want to come back to those slides.
Yeah, this is the slide effectively that we've just done with one of our modules effectively. So we've got one of these sitting out there now. Okay, and then we're going to build the second one back here.
So we did the factory,
next.
but we haven't gotten to fit and finish.
Nope, no, we're not. In fact, we probably won't even do any fit and finish because as a developer, I don't think fit and finish is necessary. I think a nice Spartan user interface that is obvious to me is perfect.
I'm just probing back to your original things of why is this in your mind, at least tonight, more a impossible build than a Detroit or a you get what I'm pointing at?
Why is this more of an impossible build than
Detroit?
you're mixing metaphors on me?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do. Is since you were mixing them, I'm trying to pull them apart and see how much you think it's Detroit and how much you think it's a possible build and why you think about it one way versus another.
Well, from the impossible build metaphor, I'm really talking about I'm building these components and testing them in factory. And then I'm going to take those reusable components and assemble them into something else. Right. So that's it. Now, the Detroit and London style was really more of a comment on the type of testing that we're doing here. Right. So we're taking a more outside or black box approach to the testing here intentionally by working our way through the DOM instead of like the older version or the test bed type testing libraries that people typically use with Angular. actually take a more inner focused approach in which you're a little bit closer to the implementation. So you actually work with this underlying component class with the test bed style tests, right? You'll notice I don't ever talk to this class directly. All I'm working with in these tests is the DOM that's rendered by this component.
Okay.
So I never actually talk with this class at all.
And Scott, how do we manage to like keep up with multiple languages? Because for me, if I switch to something different, it takes me time, because for suppose if I'm jumping onto Angular from React, I don't know how long it will take for me.
The answer is he doesn't. Sometimes he puts in bad parentheses or squiggles because of the other language.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I have to be patient with myself, but it takes a lot of work. So I currently at work, I do katas in Java, C#, React, and Angular. And I do them sometimes multiple days per week. So up to 3 days a week, I might do one in 3 different languages as I go along. So that's given me plenty of practice in bouncing around and such. That's how it is. It's just repetition, probably more than anything. And soon enough, Python's coming down the path for me too. So I'm gonna have to go back and relearn some Python to make that happen.
You couldn't use Google Translate to translate between all those languages?
Oh, I wish you could, you know.
It's coming. Have you seen AI generated code?
Yeah, I've heard about it.
GitHub's coming up with some sort of feature
Yeah.
like that, where you can just type in a string and it'll start rendering or generating code underneath it.
Cool.
It's pretty wacky. Okay. So actually what's kind of cool is this is the hardest component to do, I think, out of this. The wiring of to-do list, the wiring of these two things together in the to-do list, that one's kind of wild. Not terribly wild. The test is kind of complicated, much like this last one we wrote, but maybe not too complicated. It's a little bit different than this. All right. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and start working on to-do list items. So to-do list items is simply going to take items from a parent, some array of strings, and it's going to render those strings underneath. And so let's start working on that one. What I'll do is I'll open up the tests on this side. Not app. Here they are. And I'll open up the component on this side. All right. Here again, we got bare bones. And I'm going to change this one a bit. Let's say it's going to render a message here. Oops, that's a W. So what we wanted to do here is if there are no items present, I just want to render some message that states that, and then I'm going to look for that text. So let's start off with creating the test. Should render a message when none are passed. I'm going to try this anonymous function thing again. No params. I like this template a lot more. That second one. That was kind of cool. Oops. Is that a curly? Oh, the parenthesis. That's what I need, a parenthesis. Okay. Okay. And let's see. I expect. Oops. Screen. Get by role. Oh, wait, can I do get by role here?
Get all by role? Oh, no, scroll down and pass get by placeholder text. Is there a get by role?
I think what I need is get by text in this case. I'm just looking for a message. And from a user's perspective, they don't know what underlying element might be associated with this. So I could have anything under here. I could have a span, a div, a paragraph. So I'm going to do get by text, and I'm going to look for some sort of message that says something like no to do items. I'm going to use real loose language like that so we can match on that pretty easily. And oops, to be defined, right? And that should fail. Should render. I will find an element with the text. Okay, good. That's what we wanted. All right, and so we'll do something simple to make this pass. I should, let's see, maybe I'll have a paragraph here. Look there. Oh, look at that. There's our extra squiggly right there. Paragraph. No. Oh, just that. Okay. No to-do items available. Let's see if that matched. It looks like it matched over here.
Nice.
Just making sure list items, render a message with another pass. So that was an easy one to pass. Okay. Okay. Now, when items are there, I want to see the items and I don't want to see this message anymore. So it and we can use our template here. Okay. Can you hear my dog back
Change
there?
that cat litter. Who let the dogs out?
I don't know where my wife is, but I wish she would take care of the dog.
The dog's telling you what
Okay.
to type next.
It's fine. It's keeping the
Right,
strings
yeah.
array out here.
Okay, so let's say I need an array of stuff to pass in here. Let's just call this something like input so we can tell it from our other stuff, and we're going to make it a string array. And yeah, let's change cat litter. I'm just going to type it. What else do we want to do? Let's get a couple more on here. Oops. Vacuum. That's what I had to do this weekend. And I had to dust. It was girls' weekend for my lovely wife, so.
Dust. I love dust. It's one of those words that means the opposite. If you dust a cake, you put things on. If you dust the furniture, you take things off.
I should de-dust or undust, right? Okay. It's going to present a little problem for me here, I think, because I've got to re-render this component in order to do this test. And I can't, this is one of the limitations of the library. Once I've rendered it, I can't re-render it.
Oh,
So what I'm actually going to do is I got to bust it out into another describe here. So I'm just going to give it this little number here. Okay. And then I've got to close this one out up here.
oh, so this is not going to be nested describes, but peer describes? Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah. So
I don't know if I've ever, oh yeah, I guess. Peer.
So
I
it's kind of
guess
like
I
a,
haven't done peer at the highest level though.
it's kind of like a closure, I guess, where, you know, the state of this render and the screen object are maintained within this
Yes.
function. So I have to
Yes.
bust it out into another function in order to re-render it. And this time I think we can just do it in line. We're only doing it once. And so I'm going to pop it into here. This is going to mean this has to be async.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I'm going to use my component properties and pass it in as like that, I think. Okay, and we got our same compile issue because we don't have an input for this yet. Just double checking the format. I think we're good on these formats. Wait, okay, so I should have it down here. And I think what I want to do is expect screen dot get by or get by text, right? I'm actually going to use the exact test here to be defined. Okay. So I want some element that contains this text to be defined. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and create 3 of these because I want to make sure all 3 of my elements show up in here somewhere. Okay. I'm just going to take these values. This value.
Yeah. Just to be a gadfly, why not one at a time?
I am doing one at a time. As far as the expectation is, right? But yeah, to me, I mean, these things aren't necessarily the fastest running types tests, right? I don't mind making some sins and test-driven development sometimes in terms of extra assertions if they're focused on the same sort of thing, if you will. So if I was testing 3 different aspects of this behavior, like maybe I should see some text and I should see some checkbox lit up, and maybe then I should also expect some output to occur. That I would definitely separate into 3 different tests because I'm really talking about 3 different behaviors here. Here I'm talking about one behavior, and I just want to be, for completeness sake, just make sure that all 3 elements of this input are rendered for me. It could be that only one of them gets rendered for some reason. I don't want that to happen. Okay, so here's where things will get a little funky. So we're going to have to do 2 things. I might actually kind of take this down here. Would it make sense to make sure this doesn't get rendered? I don't know. That might beg for a different test.
Oh, not to be defined, for example.
For this, yeah, no to-do items to be hidden. Okay, I'm going to do a whole hog on my sins here. And I'm actually going to do that. So avert your eyes.
Is this really sinning though? Is this really sinning?
Oh, is this to be not defined? Oh, no.
I think it's not to be defined.
Not right? Dot to be defined, right?
Correct.
That's hard to read, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's saying that I believe it's still this compilation error here. Okay, I'm willing to live with that. Compilation error still failing test. All right. So what I'll do is I'll quickly fix that by providing an input here. Back that up there. I'm not using those 2 methods that were generated, but the constructor and the ng init. So I'll focus my customizations down here. So I need to add input, right? And we called it to do items. And this should be a string array. And by default, we're going to make it an empty string.
The array, right? Yeah.
Oh, this needs parentheses here. Okay. That fixed my compiler. Really didn't like that, did it? Okay, now I think we're beyond the compiler. We're getting good stuff here. Let's see what happened here. Okay, it's expecting that not to be defined. Okay. All right. I'm going to call an audible here, and I'm actually going to split these because I think there's value in that. So what I'll first do is I'm just going to comment these out for the moment. And I'm going to focus on that one thing. And then I'm going to add a second test, and I'll pull this rendering off into another function before each function as a refactor. Okay. All right, so we're going to focus on this one here. So when there are items in the array, we want this to not appear. Okay, so I think here, very simply, I need an ngIf expression, and what I want is to do items length.
Mhm.
All right,
Nice.
something like that. I think that's gonna get it. Is it? Did it get it? Ah, okay. This is an easy one to fix. Okay. So good thing to know. All right. So because I used get by text here, it's expecting exactly one, right? What I have to do is give this an opportunity to be null. And so in order to use, for it to be, to potentially be null is I need, not, what's it get? Let me make sure I get the right thing. I think if I, dot, oops, that's not a dot. Dot. Is it find I need? So get all returns an array or null. It's query. Okay. Query by text. Okay. So this is one of the nuances of these queries, right? If I use query by text and it doesn't find it, it's going to return null. If I use get by text, it doesn't find it, it throws an error, right? So in this case, I want to use query by text because I want this to be null if it's not there. And then I'm going to make sure this is not defined. I think that will be, oh, I'd expect null to be not defined.
Oh,
all right.
So you should switch it to be null instead
I
of
think,
not.
yeah, I think that's what we need here. I could have probably used falsy too here, right?
Possibly. Not sure.
Let's try it. Yeah, falsy would have worked too. Okay.
Good call. Yeah.
So I don't have to distinguish between null and undefined there. Okay. All right. So that test is good to go. Should. Okay. Let me fix that. We're all green, so I'm going to start writing my new test. All right. Before I write that new test, I'm going to say should not render message. Here, because that's what I'm really testing here, right? Okay. Now
And
down
then get
here,
rid of the dead code on 43.
yeah, I'm going to drop this.
So before you move on to the new stuff, get rid of the dead code up on 43.
Yeah, I'm going to do that too. And then we're going to drop these guys, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So now I should have this test failing because I can't find change cat litter. Okay, good. All right. That's what we looked for, what we needed to do. All right. And we're not green, so I'm not going to refactor this out yet. Okay. So now what I do need down here is probably like an something with an NG4. Okay. Well, let's say,
Oh, unordered list.
yeah, I think that's what we need. Now, do I want that list? I think it'll be okay.
Or
Oops,
ordered
well,
list, depending if you want to prioritize your cleaning.
Okay. And then I need NG4 here, I think. Let of oops. Two item, let's do items. And can I simply do this? Li. And here I think I need my double braces for. I don't know if I got this right. I'm gonna wing it and see what happens. Oh yeah, okay.
You know, the
Nice.
compiler.
Just double check to make sure. Should render items when items are passed. There it is. Okay.
Oh, and so you don't need the ng if there, because if to do items is empty, it just won't ng4. There's nothing to ng4.
Right.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, and I think there's a way. I might be able to inspect the DOM even in here just to see kind of what that looks like. More tools, developer tools. And let's see, where is this stuff going to be?
Frame.
HTML.
Your body under here somewhere. Whoa, lots of stuff. Oh, that's Jasmine stuff. Okay, I won't find it in here. I'll have to inspect it on the actual app when we get to that.
If there's a setting. There's a setting in one of the JSON files where you can see the render. I'm just drawing a blank what that setting is right now. It's in the Jasmine. It's one of the JSON files. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Where you could actually see your what do you have? Karma Conf. It's Karma Conf, right? And which one is it? Headless. Is there a headless in there?
Headless. Base path.
I have to Google it for you. Sorry.
Yeah, if you come up with that, I wouldn't mind trying it out.
Yeah.
Okay. For the time being, though, I think I'm gonna charge on because I think we're in pretty good shape here. So we've got our two modules of the house created here, and now we're gonna assemble it on site here. That's all the tests I need, right? Okay.
Room with the view.
How are we doing on time, by the way? 9:35. Oh, I think we're gonna get it done. Look at that. Make sure I get the right stuff here. So I'm gonna work here with my test, to-do list, spec. And then I'm gonna come over here and we're gonna do the, oops, not that one.
So it's the browser's key, and it should be Chrome headless rather than Chrome in your Karma Conf.
Chrome headless. What I do? Did I close that? Must have. Under browsers, Chrome
Yeah,
here.
switch it Chrome headless and then rerun your tests.
Is that like a single like
Yep,
this?
single word. Yep.
Okay.
I believe that's worked for us before. So let's see. You have to rerun.
Okay. Let's go back out here.
And if it doesn't work, of course, just drop it. I don't want to
Yeah.
mess you up.
That's not messing up.
Is that actually just going to render stuff in here? It's not going to bring up Karma.
Oh, I thought it would
Oh,
bring
will it?
up Karma, and it would oh, maybe.
It
That was
might
weird.
Maybe.
not.
I wonder if
Okay.
this is how we use it for CI or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, Luis,
Typically, headless is for CI, yeah, since, and
Okay.
I'm not familiar with this sort of testing for
Okay.
Angular
Let's
components.
go back to this. Let's see. I might have to start it again.
Yeah, it seemed like maybe I had it
Worth a try.
reversed. Yeah.
Worth a try, but it is something I want to try to figure out is how do I then execute these tests in the CI pipeline. Okay.
I might have had it reversed.
We're all green. Okay. I'm going to close that for now. And we're in, did I ever open it? To-do list spec. Component spec. There it is. Okay. Okay, similar thing. We're going to check for the existence of these two components, the child components, and then we're going to start to kind of wire them together here. And then the to-do list will maintain the state between them. All right, so let's start here. It should be a pretty quick one. I need to turn my light on because I'm having trouble seeing my keyboard. It's getting dark here. There we are.
Touch typing.
All right. I was wondering why I was having so much trouble here. I can't really type without looking at my keyboard anymore.
The fireflies are out.
All right. Code by the light of the fireflies, right? Okay, here I got to do something a little bit different. Because these components don't have roles, I'm going to actually use test IDs to find those. So screen get by test ID. And then I can just pop the test ID into the string. And that is defined at my component level. So I'm looking for entry component here. And it's right up here, this thing here, to-do list entry. Oops. Let's see. All right. And I want that to be defined. Okay. Failing. I'm going to find that element by that data test ID. Good. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted. And How do we fix that? Well, we go to our to-do list component and we just pop in an app to-do list entry,
Mhm.
and that should add that component.
What? So do you have to start Karma? I mean, yeah, the test all over to get it to work?
It shouldn't. Should have picked that up.
Yeah.
What happened there? To-do list entry, data test ID. The div is there. Ah.
Do you
Yeah,
have to
okay.
import it? Or...
Yep, that's exactly what I have to do here. Render imports. It's not imports. What's the name of that? Is it dependencies?
Provider? Oh, I can't remember. Declaration.
Declarations. That's what it is. I think I need a to-do list entry component. There we go. Okay, cool. That worked. And since I'm working on my test, I can go ahead and add the next one here. Items component is what we're going to test for next. So let's go ahead and add that. Actually, a little quicker to do it this way. Items. Okay. Drop this. That should fail. That karma, and it will find element by to-do list items. Okay. So same sort of thing, a to-do list component. To-do list items. Filters that out. And then hopefully that makes a screen. Good. Yep. Okay. So the next test should render no items when no items are passed to the to-do list items component. Okay. I might write a test here that's actually going to pass, honestly. By default behavior, it's going to just do this. Okay. Here. Should render no items. Actually, it shouldn't render no items. It should render the message. So honestly, this test, I should be able to actually just grab it from, not here, but here. And it should also be the same test in the parent context.
Oh, so you're running, you're going to do the same expectation in both places.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't think I necessarily have to do this, but it will pass because of that. So it's doing a deeper render. So it's actually finding that component underneath. It's confirming that.
By the way, could you just try something real quick at 33.5? Can you just on the left, like type like 33.5? So at 33, just press enter afterwards.
Enter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And type T-IT. T-IT. Oh, yeah, and press enter. Or yeah, press enter right now. Okay, we must have some kind of extension where it'll actually output the whole it, including the anonymous. So it must be an
Oh,
extra
gotcha.
code. Yeah, extension
Okay.
of VS Code. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like having written that test like that, but I think we're going to come back to that. Let's go ahead and start with the next one. Sometimes the behavior
Put a
exists.
to do on your to do tests.
Yeah. Okay, we don't need that. Okay, and this one. Okay. So we only pass items when we update the state. So actually, this is the one that's going to force us. I don't even need that second test. This is where all the magic happens, right here in this one. Oops, I did that. I hit Command C twice. Command C. Okay. All right, I don't even need this last thing here. Okay, so, all right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go in, we're going to look for our text box, we're going to put some text in it, we're going to look for a button, we're going to hit submit, we're going to handle the event, we're going to update our internal state and pass that back down to the child, and then we should expect to see the text. So it's very similar to which one was it? To do this entry. Very similar to this test. It's going to start out just like this test, only we're going to expect something different. Emitted event when the button is pressed, and we're not going to check for this emitted value thing.
And if we were doing a refactor there, I'd suggest maybe spied value or something like that, since you mentioned the spy at that point.
Yeah, the weird thing is it's not a direct call on the method that's passed as an output. It's actually calling some other under the covers, a method on an under the covers object, that event emitter. That's the problem with that particular test. It took me about an hour or two to find out how to actually spy.
When you were explaining it, the word spy sort of stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Is a good thing to throw in there for that stupid person who has to read it later, like me.
Oh, the
tomorrow.
callback, like the spot.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
Because emitted sounds like something the system does instead of, somehow the word spy helped me as you were walking through that.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's get this going.
Not for now, just.
Yeah, when I get to green, right?
Yeah.
Well, I kind of had green, but
I've just been reading through Arlo's list of how to name things.
7 steps of naming.
Got to get past applesauce.
Okay, fire event. Okay, now this time I expect get by text. Okay, and I want this, change the cat litter value to be in there. Okay. I think that's the test. And this will require all the wiring that we need to do for this. Just double checking my test here. I think we're good to go. Let's make sure it's failing for the right reason. Unable to find the text, change cat litter. Good. Okay. All right. Do the same thing here I did before. I need some state here with my array. and let's call it do items. Oops. I don't think I need that if I'm going to be equals. Yeah, I do need to make this a string right here. You need to type that one.
String array or
Right,
item
right.
array?
I'm sorry?
These strings or items?
We don't have an actual type of item. We're just passing strings around for this one so far. And then
Has
I
to-
need to bind. Sorry?
Oh, I was about to say it has to be a JavaScript, but it really just has to be a type. So it could be a JavaScript type or an Angular type, right? There.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I want to do items down
And
here.
another base with items. Never mind.
So that's now becoming your input, your Angular input.
Yeah. So I'm wiring up that empty there. Oh.
And so,
Here we are again.
oh,
Extra
not
bracket.
again. But
Okay. Still failing, same reason. Yep, go ahead.
so the first to do items on line 8 is your Angular input, which means on the app to do list items component, the child component, you're going to have a to do items in that one. But this second to do items here inside the double quotes refers to the to do items on line 17, right?
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
differentiate these two, I'll
Thank-
rename that.
Thank you for doing that. That was a confusing thing when I was first learning
Yeah.
Angular. And so thank you for doing that, because it does kind of make
Yep.
it a little more easy.
Yep.
Or easier. Yeah, thanks.
And then the next thing I need to do
Names matter.
I need to do this. I think I need this notation for, yeah.
So now that's
And
your
I call
output.
this, yeah. Handle new to do item. And I think I need parentheses there,
Because it's a,
or do I?
I think so, because it's a method call, right?
Yeah.
Call or a pointer?
Oh, it's angry at me because it doesn't exist yet. Okay, so let's work that out. Handle.
On 9.7, are you passing an expression or a pointer?
I should have a new item here. It's a type string,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And oops, not that, but these. Okay. And this needs, I want to say, there's a special notation for this, I think.
Oh, yeah. Dot.
Is that it?
Or is it just the event?
Handle new to do item. Why is it barking at me here? Property. Oh, that's
It's
why.
got a
You
string,
need an S.
not an event.
Yeah, I snuck an extra S in there somewhere.
Toward the end of that, the handle new to do items,
Yeah.
okay? You're missing the S on items.
Oh, well, I should only be getting one item through here, so I shouldn't have
you're
had
just
the
looking
S.
for
to begin
one.
with.
Okay, sorry
I
there.
think I mistyped that somehow
Okay,
instead of cutting
well,
and
now they're
pasting.
consistent.
Okay, so here, this we're going to use that fancy operator. What's it, the spread operator? Is that what it's called? To add this to append this.
Oh, dot,
Okay,
dot, dot, dot.
so
Yeah.
yeah, to do item list equals array to do
Yeah.
comma new item
Nice.
and
And then you rearray it. You rearrayize it by bracketing.
yeah. But I screwed something up here.
Set out to be an element is not about.
It's another, look at that, another parenthesis snuck in here somewhere. There it is.
Wow. Thank
There
you,
we
VS
are. Now we're
Code.
green. Okay. All
How
right.
sweet it is.
That's great.
Okay. So that tells me this component should be okay. Now I think we got to go back to the app and include this thing. App component test. Oh, that's, I'm just going to close these others for the moment, just so I'm less confused. I know there's a way to do this, but
Oh, you just right click on
I
the
want-
tabs and it'll say close all.
Yeah.
allows. Like right now, if you right click, it might have, if you have a couple open.
there we are. Okay. And then I'm just going to drag this guy over here. All right. Okay, should create the app. All these, so this is using the testbed type tests right here. And so I've got to do something a little bit different here. I'm still going to do by test ID, but what I want to, I'm going to delete these tests in a sec here. So I'll just start down here. I'll do it up here, actually. Stop scrolling. Okay, so now I need to write a test that looks for my app component. I mean, my to-do list component. And I'm going to write a totally different test for this because I'm using testbed instead of test library in this file. And I don't really want to take the time to refactor it. Okay. Okay. I need the fixture and I need to const component equals fixture dot, I think it's debug element dot query by dot, oops, dot CSS. And then I need to check for a test ID. So I have to use this attribute notation. ID. Is it simply maybe it's that. And then I need my test ID for my app component here. Oh, which is actually an HTML file. Whoa, where are you at? Oh, no, I don't. I'm going to need to change that, but it's in my to-do list here. I need this test ID. That's it. And that, I think, needs to be double quotes inside. And I want to expect that my component to be defined. All right. Are we in time? I'm over. Okay. I promise we're almost done here. It's not a valid selector. Okay, I know we're real close on this. So we're going to cheat here real quick and take a look at an old test.
Is it, this one has spaces on either side of the equals? Is that the issue?
The issue is again between the keyboard and the chair. It's supposed to be something like this. The bracket goes on the outside. Well, I want to do something here. Change the name of this to make sure I'm not getting a collision on namespace there. I think Jasmine might be finding this actually within there. All right. I'm going to delete those tests now because I'm actually going to change this app component HTML now. I think I need to just delete everything. Or do I delete everything?
Right? What's the point here?
What I'm going to do is actually insert my component in here instead of all this stuff here. Yeah, I think I just need to delete the entire file. And app. Oops. To-do list. Okay. Okay, that's passing now. Oh, this is actually running somewhere. I think it's running behind here. There it is. Okay. Add a new to-do. Change the cat litter.
Change the cat.
Oh, there's something interesting I could have done here. Okay, mow.
Mow the cat, change the lawn.
All right.
Dyslexics of the world, you untie.
There it is.
My favorite bumper sticker.
Okay, so success. We got our app working, up and running. It's all scaffolded together. Wanted to do one other quick thing here as we wrap up. With the to-do list entry, I'm going to add a little bit in here just to kind of clear that form each time we enter. And I should actually write a test for it, but we're running low on time. So ng, well, what? No, it's not called ng.
I was wondering if you're making it be defined and undefined, if you could do that again. So,
Entry form dot reset. Now, when we run that, now, hold along, enter, boom. Okay, cool. All right, voila. Sorry about that. I didn't write the test for the last one there, but
the last thing you got to do is celebrate. What happens if you put celebrate in there?
Well, hmm. I can wrap it up like the last one, right?
Got to do a happy dance.
Drink a beer, right? There we go. Everybody go home if you're not home and drink a beer. If you are home, grab a beer, drink a beer.
If drinking beer in your jurisdiction is legal.
Yeah.
Take one down,
Hopefully.
put it back up. 100 bottles of beer on the wall.
Hopefully there are no trigger laws.
So
All right. Well, that's all I got, folks. Thank you for joining me again. I saw some familiar faces, and hopefully I didn't scare too many people off with my very poor Angular skills, but appreciate
that's
you all.
great. 2
Hopefully
hours.
you
Good
got something
job.
out of it.
I'm
That was
gonna
great.
turn off the stream so that way you don't feel like you're rebroadcast. But
I was